What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the Talking to the Dog Benfica podcast. My name is Alfredo. Tonight I'm here with Cristiano Oliveira, as always. Cristiano Oliveira, how are you doing?
Fantastic. Just sitting here trying to stay warm right beside you with this nor'easter coming our way.
That's right.
Besides that, everything's fantastic.
Up in the white, great white north, Mr. David de Oliveira. What's going on?
Not too much. We're not too cold up here, so I don't know what winter clipper you guys are receiving, but we're not too cold.
We're expecting 9 to 12.
And Steve's also here, but currently is in his backyard cranking out the internet machine, see if he could get good internet. He's rebooted his computer a couple times at least, but we're waiting for him to come on. When he comes on, I will say hello. Anyway, on tonight's podcast, as always, every Tuesday night, bringing you the latest and greatest news on Benfica. I don't know if you could call it greatest, but certainly news on Benfica. On tonight's menu, we will break down the Marítimo game. We'll also look ahead to the Aves, Desportivo das Aves game that comes up this weekend, this Saturday to be exact. And we'll also discuss the latest news from the Benfica front. This one involving Paulo Gonçalves. It's not something that we usually get into, but it's a topic of the hour, and I think that at least myself, I have an angle, or not an angle, but my perspective on what this is. So stay tuned, and we will talk about that. Right now, let's get started with this Marítimo game, and I think Benfica's fourth straight game with the same 11, so I won't bore you and give you the 11. But I'll go into the game. First 15 minutes by Marítimo, strong 15 minutes. They pressed Benfica high. They didn't really let Benfica play a whole lot out of the back. Benfica did turn around, and we got 4 goals on the scoreboard before the half. 16th minute, 22nd minute, 35th minute, and 42nd minute. Jonas, Grimaldo, and Jonas twice. The last one being a PK, when we know that he had that streak without missing a few PKs, and I think that he probably couldn't have hit this one any better. We're talking about upper 90, close to upper 90, if you will. But even if it's something that I think that he's thinking, all right, what these guys have been guessing, I've been taking these good. I'm just going to take this in a way that you can't grab this. And I think that was the exact way that Jonas
in a very rainy day, wet situation.
Yeah.
Good job by him to crank it up and put it up there where nobody was going to go get it.
Yeah, exactly. So continue the raining throughout the game. Benfica comes out for the second half, winning 4-0. Pitch was getting heavy and water soaked as everybody got a chance to watch the game saw. So Benfica really slowed it down. They really didn't need to go at Marítimo, really. So overall a pretty relaxed second half. We did get another goal by Zivkovic in the 81st
what a goal
minute.
It was.
That's right.
And what a goal it was with his off foot, his right foot, perfect in the gaveta, no chance.
Yeah, that's right. So I mean that pretty much did it. It's the game in a nutshell, if you will. But I kind of want to just wrap that up, and I wrote a few points that I wanted to bring up. First of all, Steve Santos is here.
What's going on, everybody?
You wrote that down? That was one.
I wrote that. That was one of the points.
You
Steve
expected
Santos
his internet.
Yes.
I got you.
Steve, you cracked up that internet good. It's good for a good
yeah, man.
half hour or so.
It's all wound up.
Great. You sound great, by the way.
I'm glad I sound great.
Bathroom or something.
Right.
The echo.
So
no, because what are you gonna do?
Cristiano, I'll start with you.
Vala.
Rui Vitória, win number 100.
Yeah.
Qual professor?
I mean, he's been. I mean, his. He's look, his numbers speak for themselves. I mean, he's done a tremendous job in his 3.5 seasons here at Benfica so far. He's, I believe, something like that, seventh winningest coach in the history of Benfica. You know, number 1 is
Jorge Jesus.
Very good, JJ. But yeah, he's been a little, his numbers wise, I should say, wins wise, he's been a lot better than I've given him credit for at times. But A W is a W, and 3 points is 3 points, and that's all that matters. And he's got Benfica once again in a position to fight for the Portuguese Primeira Liga Nos title, I should say. And so as far as that, on that end, he's done a tremendous job. I mean, he's gotten his men ready to win week in, week out. He's made some tough decisions. Other times, some decisions that were obvious, others not so obvious. But like I said, his numbers speak for themselves, and he's like 144. I don't know. He's got tremendous numbers for Benfica. So nothing but praise for him on that part. Thanks for setting me up.
And Steve, clearly the best moment of the season for Benfica, the way the team is playing, the way guys are getting into spaces, the way they're moving the ball, the combinations. We see we had tons of praise for the left side, and all of a sudden there's a right side coming along. All right, you got Rafa, not yet on fire, but he's sparking. I would say he's got some sparks, and then you got Almeida, who is clearly having the best season at Benfica. His assist tally is incredible. And then we got that goal that Jonas scores, that Jonas kneels down to shine Almeida's shoes, and Almeida tells him to get up, which says a lot about what's going on with this team, that there's not one particular guy that should be praised for what's going on with the team, but all of them should be praised. But Steve, best moment, are we too late?
So there's a little bit of that there, isn't there? This could be probably the best football that I've seen Benfica play in Rui Vitoria's era. I do have slightly short-term memory, but I cannot remember us playing this type of controlling football where we're very comfortable in possession. We're very good at winning the ball back. We have players that, with Zivkovic, with Pizzi in the middle of the park, we have two brainy players, with one with above average technique and one with probably average technique. But
Who's
is
that?
Oh, come on.
Who's above average technique and who's
above average is Zivkovic. Zivkovic is
So you're saying that Pizzi is just average technique?
Well, we've had this conversation before. I mean,
I don't recall, Steve.
The brain has always been better than the feet were when it comes to Pizzi. But Pizzi, for the realities of the Portuguese league, is a very good player. But starting from the back, I mean, if we had a better keeper at this point, I'd feel a lot more comfortable. But like you just said, it's a little bit too late. But it's no longer only in our hands, and that's the part that worries me the most. I want to stay as positive as possible because we are absolutely in a good moment. The first half against Marítimo in the pouring rain was some very good football. The second half was not as hot, but you would understand with being 4-0 up in those type of weather conditions that would happen. But we've had, since 2018 rolled over, we've been in very fine form. It's just the fall really was very poor, and it's going to catch up to us, I believe. My hunch is that Porto's been super regular throughout the whole year, and to expect them not to be now just so that we could win the title, it's hard for me to do that.
Now you realize just how important that missed penalty from Jonas in Belém was. Because that could have turned the whole game.
In hindsight,
Could have turned the whole game around, and we'd be at 3 points and still destiny in our hands. And now, yeah.
No, the Belém match was huge. Yeah. We were poor though, even before then. I mean, the Belém match is the one where you could really see, because we were already starting to play better, and that was a hiccup.
Yep.
But prior to I believe December, we were just not firing on all cylinders like we are now by any means. And now, like Alfredo said, it just might be too little, too late. You could have, the sad part is all the players that are playing now were available in the fall. All of the players that are playing to their strengths now could have been playing to their strengths in the fall. I mean, I don't know where it went wrong before. I mean, I don't know how we could be playing the way we are now and bomb out of the Champions League group that we did the way we did. I don't even remember what the results were like in the Portuguese league, but I know that we dropped points, at least against Boavista, and I can't remember where else.
That's
right
our
now,
only loss of the season.
Is it lost?
There's some
Well,
ties, strong
Boavista,
points.
I know. I'm just saying.
Rio Ave,
Yeah.
Marítimo.
There
Yeah.
you go.
You are
And-
Marítimo.
We lost?
We tied.
No, we
We
tied.
tied. We dropped points in places that we never really should have. But hey, there's still that little bit of hope. It's hard for me to look at that as a realist like I am, but that's what we're gonna have to do, I guess.
Look, I think that at the end of the day, and I think that there's a lot of you that agree with me, but regularity and consistency wins championships, and I think that right now the team that's been the most regular is the one in first place.
Look, they had their hiccups, and we talked about this a few weeks back. That all three teams are we're going to go through their hiccups at some point. And Porto's been able to straighten it out with very impressive victories: 3 goals in Estoril, 5-0 victories in consecutive games. Then they play a very tough match against Sporting at home. That the game could have gone either way. I know Porto played a little bit better, but Sporting could have definitely leveled the game, and then things would have been right back in Benfica's hands once again. Just didn't happen. But Porto went through their hiccups. They were able to straighten it out. Like Benfica did. Benfica seems like the struggle was a lot longer because of squeaking away the wins and not putting away the games like we're accustomed to seeing them now, especially now throughout this run here. They were struggling to put away teams. Porto, though, the only, I guess, positive as a Benfica fan that I could look at towards Porto right now at the moment is they still have some important games, Taça da Liga or Taça Portugal, whatever it is, against Sporting. So the main guys are going to play. And the other thing is this: they do have some injuries to a lot of their key players. Again, they had a lot of injuries to some of their key players against Sporting, and they still pulled it off. But at least it's not over yet. It's not over. It's 9 games.
Not
9
over.
games. I mean, there's still some light at the end of the tunnel, but it's definitely a task that's made a lot harder by the results of this past weekend.
Not over by any means. And then look, there's still a lot of games to be played. Some tough games, some not so tough, and there's a head-to-head with Porto. There's also a head-to-head with Sporting, which is the penultimate round of the league. So I think difficult games for every single team. I think that, I mean, this team, as Steve mentioned, all these guys were available. None of these guys were picked up in a transfer window, in the winter transfer window, and they've come in and made an impact. Perhaps their timing of introduction to the team is what has made an impact, but all these guys were available. And it's not like this is your first year with the team or what these players. When you look at these players, there's perhaps very little taken as Ruben Dias and Varela are probably the only players that are kind of fresh to Vitória that have been part of the team. I think that everyone else has been a part of this team for at least a year, 2 years, maybe 3 years, some more. So those guys have always been there. I don't, we've talked here tons of times of what were some of the factors that created this change that is ultimately has made Benfica play a lot better. This 4-3-3 change or whatever it is, or the guys that he's putting on there that have made a difference and that have made the team better. Regardless, but I think that we always start slow, and I think it's typical for Rui Vitória, but these guys were always available. Why weren't they picked? I mean,
that's been our criticism of the whole Rui Vitória thing. And then here I am sitting here, right? Just a few minutes ago, you actually put me on a hot seat, and I had to praise Vitória for its terrific job.
No doubt about it.
100. Look, you got to give him credit for that. But for those of you that think that we just sit here and hate on Vitória over and over and over, it's not further from the truth. I mean, guys, there's a lot of decisions that he's made that, in my opinion, they were brought on him. It wasn't like he made the decision, because if he would have made those decisions initially, he wouldn't have to go halfway around the world to finally come back and see that the guy that's been sitting there all along was the best option for the job, initially. And so those have been my criticisms of him over the years. I mean, it is what it is.
I mean, if you remember, and look, I think it's unfair for people to call us Rui Vitória haters, especially Neil, especially Cristiano and Steve, that you guys have been called Vitoria haters.
Have I? Oh, that's nice.
And you know, the thing is that
I've been called worse.
Yeah, so have I.
look, the thing is that I don't think we're Vitoria haters. I just think that it's not too much to ask of a coach with the type of players that you have to make this team play well. I don't think that's too much. And if you remember the rants that I had here maybe 15 episodes ago, my whole point is that Rio Ave, with the players that they had, with you look at the 11 and you compare them against our 11, all are inferior at some level. And that coach had that team playing very good, attractive soccer until they lost some key players. That's all I asked. All I asked was Vitoria put this team playing.
Why didn't you say that at the beginning of the season? Because it wasn't too long after that things started to turn around.
Well, that's what I'm saying. All we really want is for Vitoria to get this team playing attractive football and to win games convincingly, like Benfica has done in the past, and like it's in Benfica's history, and like Benfica should be doing because of the league that we play in and the quality of the teams that we play in. Monks.
I was waiting for you to finish your little rant to say, look, yes, you did went off on that rant in late October, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, or early November. It's right around that time. And I mean, if you guys have been listening to the podcast since I started being around, I mean, my criticism has always been of any coach at Benfica. You have an obligation to win all these games. You're playing against the word you just used, Mancos, with the exception of 3-4 teams in this league. You're facing a bunch of subpar players. You're decent players, I should say, but they're subpar compared to the talent you have on your team, right? And I've used the terms and I've used the exam. Anytime you're racing a horse with a donkey, the horse, even jogging, is going to beat that donkey to a sprint. And Benfica has a bunch of horses. That's why when Benfica goes out into the Champions League, they're facing bigger horses and they get slapped around. But at least in the Portuguese league, the comparison is horses to donkeys. And even I should be able to, I'm saying I'm not being Arab, I'm saying I myself, the regular coach should be able to put an 11 out there that should be able to beat the Shavs of the world, the Ferencváros or the Vitória Setúbal. Look, you went off on the rant at the right time, but Benfica picked it up, and it's not being haters. It's not being haters. What I try to do here, I call a spade a spade. Sometimes I say things that people don't like, but I call it how I see it.
It's nothing against Rui Vitoria personally.
No, he's a tremendous guy. He's the type of guy you want to bring home.
Yeah.
To you hope your daughter brings home.
Yeah, but
not a JJ. You don't want your daughter bring in the JJ because he's gonna sit there and have Thanksgiving dinner and slap the crap out of him. Vitoria, he'll actually pass the bread basket around. He'll probably fill up a cup for me. He'll polite. And then the other guy will be like chewing. There'll be crumbs all over the place, drinking from the bottle. You don't want that.
And look, that's the thing, right? So take out Rui Vitoria and put any name. And if anyone was not, if we didn't see the team playing like they should, like we know they have the potential, we would be criticizing also. But I think that, we did pick it up at a right time. Whether it's going to be good or not, I don't know. Whether it's going to be good enough to get there, I don't know.
I heard a little rumor, just so you know.
I heard a rumor.
Vitoria played that clip of Uran in the locker room, and the guy said,
"Is that what it was?"
Os gajos não prestar atenção, bora lá.
Yeah, so to me, and look, I'm as positive as they come, and I continue to believe in a Penta, and I think that everyone that listens to us and that doesn't listen to us should continue to believe in a Penta until it's mathematically possible. We're in there, right? So let's leave it at that. Couple other things that I wanted to mention before we move on from the game. One was the horror tackle on Zivkovic. Now this is obviously anyone that saw that knows that these type of tackles don't belong in football. Cristiano, you arguably have more experience playing at a level that none of us have played here, of course, but in a player's minds, in a team setting, is there such a thing as a guy that could maliciously try to hurt a player?
Yeah, absolutely. You always have to. Every team At least, I mean, maybe at these levels, there shouldn't be a guy, but every team has that guy that's an enforcer and intimidator. I always played against a bunch of guys that did nothing but go out there and try to tackle hard and get you scared. It's a part of the game. It's an ugly part of the game, but it happens. I mean, look at the biggest teams in the world. They always have an enforcer, every team. So do I believe that tackles like that belong in a game? Absolutely not, but they happen. And sometimes tackles are may look worse than a guy actually intends them to look, because remember, you're coming in one way, the player you're coming in to tackle is going to move another way, so you're going to hit him in a spot you didn't intend to. But that one was obvious. That one, it was like, bro, I'm coming out to take your legs out. I'm frustrated. We're getting our asses kicked, and I'm taking you out no matter what. And it was a good job for the referee to actually go into the VAR and realize that was a tremendously dirty tackle. And he came back, gave him the red. But that happens all the time, dude. I mean, hard tackle's part of the game, dude.
Look, I'm not.
I don't like them. Don't like them. I don't have a problem with them.
I'm not a conspiracy theorist by any means, and I'm not saying that there's money being exchanged hands so that guys could go after players. But it's been in other sports. There's been bounties on certain guys,
Alfredo,
but I don't want to go down that hole.
Alfredo, you played.
I played. Yeah.
You played as well, and let's be honest.
I still do. FIFA.
Absolutely. Let's be honest. There's been times where you went in hard on guys, and there's been times like, and look, bro, it's you've. I don't think I've ever lost 5-0, but you've been on the field in losing situations to maybe even just 2-1 to a rival in the game that it gets heated, situations rile up, and bro, you start coming in a little bit tougher than you normally do. Doesn't mean you're a dirty player. It just means that your emotions get wrapped up in the moment.
I get it.
And so I think, look, and I don't want to go down that path, right? And I'm not calling you crazy, but to go down that path is a little, look, it happens. Like I said, you've been on the field in a lose situation, and your temper's gone, bro. You're not yourself. You're not thinking. You're losing. You're frustrated. You don't give a crap. And yeah, you intend to maybe come in and send the guy a message, but you don't intend to send the guy to the hospital and break his leg.
Yeah.
I think it's part of the game, man. Guys are human, and frustrations, bro. I mean, there's everybody reacts different to a situation on the field. You got 22 players on the field who have a different mentality, who have a different, thinking at the time. And to say the guy was dirty, I'm not ready to say that. Was it a dirty play? Yeah, and I think the referee caught it and did just well. I don't think there's a bounty, though.
Yeah. The other thing that I wanted to mention, first hat trick in the first half by a Benfica player since from 23 years ago. There it is.
6-3.
From the famous 6-3, the hat trick by João Vieira Pinto in that game, in that first half. So Jonas just equaled that feat. I don't know if Jonas has ever scored a hat trick for Benfica. Forgot to look that up, but
I think he's done it twice. I think he's done it twice already. I think.
So first time for Benfica has won 5 straight games this season, Cristiano. And here comes that consistency that I was talking about before.
We need to keep it up. And look, you talk, and again, every single week I say the same thing when it comes to me previewing the game. At home, we're going to demolish teams. On the road is where we struggle, and we need to keep this consistency. We need to take this adrenaline. We need to take this toughness and bring it into obs. And from minute 1, bro, press. Put your foot on their neck and make sure you put the game away.
And Steve, one last thing before we move on, I wanted to talk about the substitutions. Obviously, with the game already won the first substitution, Samaris and Fefesa, and obviously it's logical, being that we're entering a time of the season where legs start becoming heavy. Fesa, for example, is a guy, and knock on some wood, that has gone for a really nice spell of injury-free. So it only made sense that he's substituted. But I find that the second substitution super interesting. And the reason why I find that super interesting, and I'm talking about the one in the 73rd minute where Jimenez came in for Rafa. And the thing is that Benfica didn't really, we're winning 4-0. Benfica didn't really need another attacker on the field. But I think that the biggest thing right here is the fact that not only did Fesa come out to a thunderous applause from the fans, but this is the thing right here that's a huge mental thing, right? So we had Rafa that has struggled all season with some confidence. Obviously, he's experienced some of the frustration that the fans have had with him. A guy that was brought in for a lot of money, yada yada yada. We've talked about it here. How he sometimes. He feels that the shirt's too heavy for him. But this is a great move by Vitória, right? The fact that the guy has been putting in good performances the past couple 3 or 4 starts that he's had, and now all of a sudden he lets the crowd at Estádio da Luz reward him with that carinho that we talk about so many times.
Yeah, I like that as well. It's a mental thing for Rafa. We've probably all been able to pinpoint that. There's definitely ability. There's definitely pace. So any little bit of mental edge that you could give him is obviously a bonus. Like the way you described it, to pull him off when you don't really need to pull him off. Jonas, if you ask me, was a guy who needed to come off given the importance of the player, given that the game was wrapped up, the conditions, et cetera, et cetera. But taking Rafa off, you really prove a point, and you put it out there that you do want to see him get rewarded, and that's what happened. I think that there's a little bit of that for Andre Almeida a little bit later on in the match as well. So
yeah, absolutely, and I think that last week. I think that somebody asked us on Twitter who we thought was the most important player of the season so far, and I think that one of us said Andre Almeida.
Yeah,
or something close.
And all of us forgot Fesa like dummies, but that's fine.
Yeah, and look, as Cristiano likes to use the word polyvalent for Andre Almeida, he's a guy that's not too flashy. That's just does his thing. You know, he's not a world beater, but his effort speaks for itself. The assists that he's had this year and the type of year that he's having speak for themselves, and obviously. He deserves some credit. He deserves some recognition by the stadium, right? Because he's a guy that does a lot of dirty work and doesn't get the recognition that Jonas gets, that Servi gets, that Zivkovic has gotten, that Krovinovic got when he was playing. So I think here's another move by Vitória, and we've always praised Vitória's man management skills here. Here's another move to reward this player with the affection of the crowd because of what he's been to this team this year.
I think you guys are both, right on that situation. But I also want to add the fact that with the Jimenez thing you mentioned, there might have not been a reason to bring in an attacker. This is a guy that wanted to leave to go on loan because he wants to play and start getting in some type of rhythm and get his confidence back to get called up for Mexican in the national team. So pretty sure there's something there with Benfica that he's going to play every game or you're going to throw him in every game. And the other thing with Almeida, it's a great point. I think you guys hit it on the head, but at the same time, I think he's using this as an opportunity as well to get Douglas into the game, because if something happens to Almeida, a yellow card accumulation or an injury,
that's the guy he's got to look at. That's the next guy in line, possibly.
No
so he needs to, he needs to also get him some more playing time and start getting. So he took an opportunity to kill 2 birds with 1 stone here. Get the guy his recognition, at the same time get a guy on the field that he might need to count on down the stretch.
Could be.
I think that's a good shout. I think there's both things there.
That's a good shout. So three valuable points for Benfica. Now Benfica is back again at Estádio da Luz against Desportivo das Aves. Saturday, 6:15 local. Desportivo das Aves currently 13th, 25 points out of 6 wins, 7 ties, and 12 losses. Away from their stadium, 3 wins, 4 ties, and 5 losses. They haven't lost a game in the last 6 games. 4 wins. I'm sorry. 6 games, 4 wins, 2 ties. And last 5 between the 2 teams, I believe. Let's see.
Dave.
All 5 wins. All 5 wins.
All 5 wins. Last round, it was Jonas twice and Seferovic with another one, 3-1 win for Benfica. Last 12 games, 11 wins, 1 draw
between the two teams. Desportivo das Aves is also still involved as one of the semi-finalists of the Portuguese Cup. They have been playing against Caldas. They beat Caldas as the first
1-0 aggregate,
the first leg, and now they will look to close out the Cinderella story of this Portuguese Cup, if you will. Again, Estádio da Luz, Benfica has been very, very comfortable at Estádio da Luz this season, as we all know. I don't really expect anything from Benfica here but a win. The team knows that they need to remain focused. They need to remain and concentrated and do the job that they're supposed to be doing. As always, Vitória is always very quick to mention whenever he's asked about the other teams, because we've been playing earlier than the other teams, he said, we come here, we do our work, and that's it. And so we need to continue to do the work and hope that at the end we'll be rewarded because we've been putting in the work. So that's about it. I don't know if you guys have anything to add about the Aves game, but as I mentioned, Saturday.
PT is going to be suspended for that game, so who takes PT's spot in the starting 11 there?
That's a good question, Dave.
I completely missed that. I didn't know he was going to be.
Yeah, PT cleaned up. So PT picked up his 5th yellow card, and it was something that he did on purpose. I think that he stood in front of a ball and a free kick, and just so he can clear up his yellow card tally. So for me, I mean, João Carvalho is the guy that you go to. Either João Carvalho or you go with Samaris.
Yeah,
I think he might lean more for Samaris.
Okay, guys, hold on a second. I gotta ask you, this Keaton Parks thing, is it because he's American?
No. Maybe.
Steve,
no, he's actually Steve. I'm being dead honest with you, right? I've actually liked what I've seen, and I think he's been comfortable on the ball. He's not impressing me to the point where I'm like, this guy's going to win the Ballon d'Or in the next 5 years. But I think he's shown me enough qualities that he could definitely play on this team. He's a guy that plays very simple, Steve, from what I've seen. Doesn't get nervous with the ball at his feet. Very calm, plays it simple, gets back, he tackles, he's involved. He's like a box-to-box guy, and I like that in players.
Yeah,
that's it. I mean, look, and maybe if I see him a little bit more, I'll be like, okay, all right, Keaton, you got your run. But until I get to that point, look, I want to see the kid play.
I think that I agree with everything that you said there, Cristiano. The only thing is that he might be down on a pecking order.
No, I get it
as far as choices. So I think for me,
João Carvalho is the guy. Next guy should be.
Samaris or João Carvalho.
It's gonna be. No, he's not gonna play.
I think
Samaris.
he rewards Samaris.
No, he's not gonna play Samaris. It's gonna be João Carvalho. There is no way he's gonna play with 2 defensive center mids.
I think that's the impression that it'll give off, no matter what somebody likes to do or does or whatever. It's always going to look like a double pivot of 2 defensive-minded midfielders. Alfredo's got a point too, though. I believe Samaris has a big role in the locker room. He looks like the type of guy that everyone kind of likes, even if he is sometimes a little bit hot-headed. So he might look to him and try to galvanize the squad a little bit by giving him minutes. But at home, versus Aves, a team that generally are a little bit more attack-minded than most of the smaller teams, I think it's a good spot for João Carvalho to play.
I mean, Steve, if he doesn't pick João Carvalho here, what kind of message is that sent to him? He was the guy that was chosen to take over for Krovinovic when he was injured, right? And now when there's an opportunity, a hole to fill, and you're still not picking him after you demoted him?
Yeah, the idea is that I think he thinks João Carvalho is more of the attacking 10 in between the lines type player that
we don't have that role on this team right now.
Yeah, we kind of do. Zivkovic is doing it already, and that's my worry, that he's probably thinking that might be too much of the same. But at home, I would hope that that's the way he goes anyway, and really shows intent and really wants to go after the game, instead of if you're Avic's manager, who I know who he is, but at the moment I've forgotten. That's El Gash. Anyway, you see Samaris and Fesa in the lineup, you're already thinking of different things, right? So if you see João Carvalho and Zivkovic, you're already there's another feeling for the game. So I'm hoping that's the way it goes.
Yeah. So we'll just have to see. Let's turn our attention now to our questions. And Francisco Marcelino, as always, very active on the questions. Thank you, Francisco.
My man.
Here's one. I'll ask you this one, Cristiano. If you could get Oblak or Ederson back, who would you pick?
Oblak.
Steve?
Ederson.
Dave?
Different.
Ederson.
Just to be different. No, dude, Ederson and that kicking ability is quite the tool.
Ederson's tremendous with his feet, but I think in between the pipes, Oblak's still slightly better.
I'm not going to argue that.
Here's another one from Francisco Marcelino. Will Bernardo Silva be the next best Portuguese player after CR7 retires and carry our team into the next decade? Yeah, I don't. I think that right now there's no other Portuguese player as talented as Bernardo Silva.
I thought it was Pizzi next in line. No. Now keep an eye out as well for Ronnie Lopes at Monaco.
Dude,
he scored 5 games in a row. I think he's gonna.
Mais uma Liga de Monks.
He might.
I hope he finally turns the corner, but his name has been called for so long.
Yeah.
Well, the kid started at like 17 playing at Man City, so he's been around for a while. But I think he's gonna try to reshuffle the cards for Fernando Santos coming up this summer. So look at that guy. He's very talented, very fast. And again, he scored the last 5 games in a row for Monaco. He's a guy that's making a name for himself. A lot of people think of Ronnie Lopes as a flop in Manchester City when the kid was like 17 years old. I mean, you know, the tendency in England is to crap on anyone that doesn't make it right away. But he's very, very young, played well at Lille, and now he's getting his break at Monaco. But that's a guy that has all the tools and all the abilities to be a guy that should be a breakout guy in the near future as well.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you could forget Gelson either. No. I think that he's very explosive.
Not a fan,
albeit not as technical as Bernardo, but but very explosive. You can't forget the kid.
Really good 1v1.
He gets to keep as long as he learns a few lessons from his thinking.
I think Gelson, again, guys, this has nothing to do with whatever color shirt he's wearing. This is my honest opinion. I think he's living off of the one performance at the Bernabeu where he went nuts on Marcelo, and everybody's been talking about that.
You don't see him often enough.
He's dude. Trust me. I don't think he's anywhere near that level.
Yeah. We all have our hunches. I like Gelson.
Yeah, me too.
I don't. He's not my typical type of player. He's not super technical or super. I don't want to say smart, but you know what I mean. He doesn't have that football sense that, let's say, Bernardo Silva has. But 1v1 and good technique, he can be a very useful player.
Very, very explosive. Here's another one from Francisco. Francisco, this one might take a little bit. Can you do the exercise of making a possible Benfica squad if our Seychelles products had never left, including only those who would really have a spot on the current roster? What do you think, Cristiano? Goalkeepers out of Seychelles. Oblak, not Oblak. Ederson, for sure. So right back. Smith or Cancel? Smith. Center backs.
Ruben Diaz.
We haven't really produced a lot of center backs out of the Seychelles, to be honest.
Lindelof is a bit of a stretch, but
let's
that's the one. That's the one you're going to use.
Definitely not Roderick.
No.
Left back.
We haven't really produced one. You want to say Yuri?
We've been struggling with left backs.
That's how bad it is. Yuri.
Yeah, we've been struggling with left backs. Defensive midfield
from Seychelles.
Can we use Manuel Fernandes as a defensive midfield? He's not from the Seychelles age, but I guess.
But he came up with He said he made his formation with Benfica.
Yeah.
Yes, but he's not a defensive midfield.
He is box to box, but he could play. But he could play defensive.
Yeah. Couldn't Renato Sanchez fit that as well then?
Yeah, that's another one.
Yeah, that's who I would put at 8. And I'd put Manuel Fernandes at 6.
Okay.
Right wing. Right midfield,
Right wing.
right wing,
Bernardo, I guess.
left wing,
Ivan Cavaleiro.
Oof.
Cavaleiro, Elder
Gonçalo
Costa,
Guedes.
Gonçalo Guedes.
No,
You're
Guedes,
right.
I put him up top. I
You
put
put him
as
up
striker.
top.
Yeah, you're right.
I haven't gotten to striker yet. I might have to do that still.
Yeah, I'd put him.
Yeah, you're right.
What strikers do you have?
That's how you know.
Nelson.
It's sad that
Nelson
you,
Oh my
Oliveira.
God,
It's
Nelson
sad-
Oliveira.
it's sad that you got to put Cavaleiro. I mean, because remember the Di Marias, all those special guys, they're
Hey,
gone.
hey, guys, don't
But
forget.
they were
that-
never Seychelles,
that-
right?
Yeah,
uh,
that's why I said they're gone. That's what I mean, Steve.
The,
Gone.
the funny thing is, we're going to be forgetting players, and they're going to be so obvious after.
Yeah,
that.
no, I know.
You can almost play. You can play Cancelo on the right.
Yeah, Ronnie
You-
Lopes. Ronnie Lopes.
Ronnie
You
Lopes.
can play Ronnie Lopes on the left.
Guys,
you can play
don't
Bernardo and Gonçalo Guedes up top.
Don't forget
Done.
that. Don't forget that Danilo is a Seychelles product.
Yeah, I'm not a fan, but yeah, you can do that. A lot of people really like Danilo. I'm not a big.
I mean,
personally.
Andre Gomes.
Although but Andre Gomes comes to Benfica, I think at 18 years old.
At
14,
his
14,
junior age, I think.
14.
That young?
No, he came at a junior age.
14, I think.
I think he came at a junior.
Yo, David.
It's an interesting.
out.
It's an interesting exercise. I think. I think that the we would have problems with that, obviously, but I think the forward position, especially the forward position, is probably something that.
Guedes and Bernardo.
What about Aqua?
Oh my God!
You remember Aqua?
He's not from Seychelles. He wasn't from Seychelles, was he?
Aqua? I think so.
The Aqua that I'm thinking of is from like 1996. Is that the guy?
Yeah.
Just checking.
No, Angola. It wasn't
Yeah.
even a and there was
No,
no
there
Seychelles.
No,
Dave, how old was he?
Aqua? Aqua is
No,
like
Andre Gomes.
No, Andre Gomes.
Andre Gomes. He came to Benfica first year junior, I believe.
that was
Andre
18.
Gomes, no, he actually
Like 14.
was developed by the Porto.
Yes.
Yeah, we know that.
Yeah, that. And then
Yeah.
what time?
And
what,
Porto, then he went to Pachuelita.
Yes,
old
and then
was
he
he
went to
when he joined
Boavista, and
Benfica?
then in 2011 he came to Benfica.
And how old was he in 2011?
Oi, isso já é muito
That's
matemática.
how old is he now?
He's 24 now. He's 24 now.
So 2011,
Minus 7.
16,
He was 17
17.
years old.
16,
17 years old.
17 is junior age.
I thought it was younger.
Yeah. All right. Next. I wish we could spend a little bit more time with that because that's very interesting. And I'm sure we're missing some players as Steve
For sure.
as Steve mentioned. Is Jetson Fernandez ready to go to camp with the A team next preseason?
I think he will.
I think he will. Whether he stays or not, it all depends on who leaves and what kind of depth we have in that position. But definitely a candidate. Do you think that João Felix is ready to be loaned to a Primeira Liga team?
Yes.
No, I think he should stay with us and get some PT. He should stay with the main squad. He's the type of talent.
You think he's that ready?
Let's see. If he's ready to play another league, let's see. I want to test him out first because if he's ready, he's ready.
I think he should go the way of Rui Costa. And I know that at that time, no B teams existed.
Ooh, yeah, life was a little bit different then.
Rui Costa went to FAF.
Yeah.
But now they're trying.
But they were second division then, though,
That's
too.
right. I'm sorry. You're right, Steve.
So there's no sense in that. But to go to, let's say, Vitória de Setúbal, I think are going to go down. But to go to a club like that where the guy's going to play 90 minutes basically every week, or we would assume that he would, I think that's super beneficial.
Yeah.
Same
everyone.
thing with Svilar next year with all these goalkeepers that
That's-
Benfica are reportedly signing. What are we
Yeah.
going to do with Svilar as
You
well?
only signed one, so you keep him and Svilar and get rid of Varela. That's simple.
Simple. Here's
Svilar
Nah,
needs
but
to
João-
play.
but
Svilar
João
needs to
Felix-
play, man.
João Felix is so nice that this kid could be. They say he's one of these types of once in a generation type of kids.
Right.
Let him play. Hey, yo, if he earns a spot in the summer and he proves
Yeah.
that he could play long, keep him.
For sure.
But that's what I mean. I want to give him the test run first with the A squad before loaning him out.
Yeah.
Now, if
But,
he can't cut
but
it,
if he's-
come
yeah.
January, loan him out.
But
That's
Chris,
it.
if he's tight with, like, let's say third string choice, like let's just say Rafa's third string right now. Let's just say, right? And he's tight with Rafa, you can't really edge him. I don't know, man. I don't know if you're stunting his growth, having him in your squad and not getting the week in, week out game situations. I mean,
I agree.
training with the caliber of players that he's going to train with, I know he's going to benefit from.
I
But
agree.
playing
with you,
90
Steve.
minutes is completely different.
I agree with you 1,000%
Yeah.
on most cases, and I'm usually the guy that's saying if the kid isn't playing, well, but when you got a kid that's as talented as this kid, right? I'm gonna let him go. I'm gonna give him a run. I'm gonna let him practice with us. I'm gonna try to get him into games. Liga de Taça de Liga, he's gonna play every game. And if he shows that he's ready, I'm throwing him out there. And that's it. Now, if he can't hang come January, like, bro, you still need some more tuning up. Here we go. Then I'll let you go. But I think I'm giving the kid every opportunity to be successful and to make this squad out of the summer.
Or you could be offered a right back position. Oh no, wait, that's another coach.
Jesus is gone. Let's just hope no 30 million offer comes before, and he never puts on.
Steve, I know that we've said a lot of things here about Bernardo, and I think that people that listen to us on a regular basis know how we feel about Bernardo. That's something I will never be able to forget JJ for.
Why? He chose to leave. He could have stayed.
Here we go. Okay, somebody can go find whatever episode this conversation is on, and we'll stick.
Here's one from Inês Gamboa, and she's the first time she's been a listener of the podcast for a very, very long time, and I thank you for that, Inês. And thank you for sending in your question. Which of the remaining games of the season can be considered a trap game, apart from Porto or Sporting games? Any team that has been impressing you and might mount a challenge against Benfica. I'll tell you. I'll go.
Let's off what we have left.
Aves, at Ferenc, Guimarães, at Setúbal, Porto, at Estoril, Tondela, at Sporting, and Moreirense. For me, the one that perhaps has me a little bit on edge is Guimarães.
Yeah,
and I'll tell you why. Because Coseiro just took over. I'm sorry, the wrong Eiro. Peseiro just took over. So I don't know if that team will turn it around. I think that team has a good deal of talent, of talented players on that team. I don't know why Martins, right?
Yeah.
Pedro Martins didn't do that great of a job. I think that's probably a combination of things. But I think if I look at the schedule, I think that this Guimarães team has me worried. Despite playing at Stade de Luz, I think that Peseiro can put a little bit of his touch in this Guimarães team.
I have no worries because it is at home. The game
is that Estoril game at home, away or at home?
That's away.
That's the one that worries me.
That's the game that worries.
Do we owe any money to Estoril?
Because here's the thing:
can we send money?
Here's the thing with that team: what Estoril is going to show up? The one prior to the Porto game, or the one that we've seen after the Porto game? They do have very good players. At least we thought they did, and obviously the elephant in the room here is just like they got a mala to abrir las pernas, they could get a mala to tough it up as well. So we'll see. But I think that game, I'm more worried about that game than I am about that game. And it's on the road on top.
And look,
of it.
Here's the angle. Here's the Estoril angle that Cristiano perhaps is not associating. But I think that the main entities behind accusing Estoril of giving up this game, and regardless of whether the transfer happened or not, we know that the transfer happened. Regardless of what the transfer was for, Benfica has been the main force.
Well,
behind.
They opened the case today to inquire, to look into that.
Right.
Today,
but Benfica has been the main force behind these accusations. So when Estoril hosts Benfica, they will obviously have a point to prove. So that's the angle there. That's the underlying storyline.
That's why I also mentioned the mala.
Well, the mala is the mala. Yeah. We know about the malas.
Right, that's right after the Porto game. So whatever happens in that game, if Benfica takes,
and then again, I mean, God forbid you lose to Porto, your championship is done at that point. You got the second spot to play for, which gives you a chance to go and play a pre-qualifier or a qualifier to the Champions League group stages. But nonetheless, you play that Porto game, and depending on how that Porto game leaves you, it may be a very difficult game. So I think that Cristiano, Estoril, that's a great shot for you, Steve.
That's the same one, Estoril game.
What about you, Dave?
Yep, that unless the Setúbal game before the Porto game. That's also away
They
on
always
the road.
play us
But
tough at
Yeah.
home. They always
Yeah.
play us tough.
Yeah, and don't forget that a lot of these teams are still fighting for a spot and to remain in the first
Relegation.
division.
For
So
sure,
they got
Stubble as well.
tons to play for. One more question. I think that we have a couple more from Kevin. Kevin, what's going on, my brother? Would you have subbed in João Carvalho at the 60th minute before Pizzi getting a yellow, considering we were winning by a lot by then?
Pizzi was going to get a yellow eventually.
Yeah,
anyway.
I think that the idea was that Pizzi gets that yellow.
That's what I was gonna say.
And then there's obviously a concerted thought about subbing the guys that you did because of what we mentioned a few minutes ago. Where do you rank Jonas among Benfica's top players?
This is a tough one.
Francisco Marcelino also had the similar question. Who do you guys enjoyed watching most playing with the Monte Sagrado?
Well, let's
João
forget,
Pinto or Jonas?
Let's forget.
Yeah, that's the one, man. That's the one that
To
makes
me,
it very
those
tough.
are the two guys.
Let's forget the 60s teams, right? Those great.
Oh,
players.
yeah.
Forget those
Yeah.
guys, right?
We're looking at like
guys that
1990,
Okay, the 80s,
1990 to now, or
that
even
we
80s.
did. In the 80s, you have three guys that Magnussen, obviously, late, whatever.
Shalana.
That's the other guy, and Diamantino, right? And then you could sprinkle
Was
in a bunch
Diamantino
of.
that good?
Yes.
Peraí.
Diamantino was that
I'm
good?
talking about from
Carlos
the
Manuel-
errors.
Okay, mas
From the errors.
peraí.
Diamantino was better. I think.
We're talking about just
From
talent. We're talking about talent. Magnussen had a talent.
You
was to
enjoyed
score
watching him. He asked about it. You said who enjoyed watching.
watching.
I'm talking
but
about the
talent.
top play. Talent. If you're gonna go talent, one of my favorite Benfica players ever. No, this one actually played.
Talent. Okay,
Farid.
cool. Let's wait.
I forget his name. I know his name, but
How could you forget his name?
I know his name, but I might be saying it wrong. Little Brazilian dude, lefty. Rodrigo, I think. I forget his name. He came over. Yeah, he came over when Vieira first got. It was big news. I forget his name. Little Roger.
Roger.
That guy was always loaned out every winter time.
No, he didn't. Not that guy.
He had good feet, but
that guy. But that's what I'm talking. If you're gonna go based on talent, that guy. Look, one of my favorite Benfica players ever is Stefan Juren.
Stefan Schwartz? Juren.
No, Juren. I meant to say Juren. I used to love. I know you went to Porto and ran over somebody, killed him, and somehow they didn't go to jail. But that was Kulkov. I think that was Kulkov.
No, it was Juren.
It was Juren. I know it was one of them. But I loved Juren. There's so many guys. But if you want to put them on a pedestal of favorites and guys that actually
choose one.
All right, let's go talent. Let's go talent. Let's go talent. Pound for pound, the most talented player you've seen.
Adeltarat.
Pronto. Queres desconversar? Desconversas. No, that's you. No. I believe that's your genuine opinion.
He was
Look,
tremendously
to me,
talented.
there's
doesn't mean he was successful. That's a totally different question. You're gonna go on talent.
It's tough.
To me, there's four guys in this conversation. I'll give you the four guys. Right
on talent only, not what they did at our club.
Talent only.
Talent only.
Talented players. Pure
talent only. I know who the four are, and I'll agree with you.
Yeah, four guys. Rui Costa.
Aymar, Rui Costa, João Vieira Pinto, and Jonas.
Stop, man. You guys gotta stop. Rui Costa played like he was.
He said pure talent. It's only talent. It wasn't impact. For just talent, you can't argue with those four.
There's so many. Look, Roger was stupid talent, right? There was I forget another one's name.
Giovanni.
Give me
Giovanni was stupid talented.
No. What?
The plug.
For what?
I just want to look at something real quick. No, there
was a little number 10 we got from there was two actually from Real Madrid. You had a Spanish one.
Balboa?
I forget his name, dude. Oh my god.
Spanish. Reyes was a talented player too.
Dote. Tremendously talented. Bro, there's a bunch of guys that were
we're talking about world-class guys, dude.
Bro, I love Rui Costa, my favorite player ever. Not the greatest player, my favorite player ever. He was really good that first season. Was a regular starter, but not really a regular starter, right? Then he left, comes back. He's nowhere near the player he was before. Look, he's Benfica's one of the sons, one of Benfica's favorite players. But come on, bro. I mean, like, I want to give guys talent that played and actually made an impact.
Okay. Those are two different questions. If Alfredo's asking for talent versus impact,
I'm talking about talent.
If it's impact, there's two players, but one of them played with a freaking bunch of bums. And that was João Vieira Pinto.
Yeah.
and once played with a good team. That's Jonas.
Montorras was talented.
Foder.
He was talented. The doctor screwed him.
Montorras was the man. Montorras was Trapattoni's favorite horse. Montorras was the man.
He should have been a lot better player than he ended up being. I'll subscribe to that, but I don't know how super talented he was. But yeah.
Look, I think the best player we saw. Well, I'm saying me and you. That shows our age. We saw on a regular play at Benfica is Shalana and now Jonas. As far as talent and production,
No.
Talent and production, absolutely.
I mean, I wouldn't even.
Shalana's before my time. I've watched highlights only.
I wouldn't put Shalana in that conversation. I look. I admire Shalana. I think he's a great talent. But I don't think I put Shalana in that conversation.
If Shalana played in today's world with the social media and the videos and YouTube and that whole crap, Shalana would be a freaking superstar. Superstar.
I think there's a lot of guys out there that could probably equal his talent right now. As far as wing play, guys that are fast, guys that are explosive, guys that got moves. When you watch Aymar play,
the game was different in Shalana's time.
There's no words to describe the class of that player. I think Rui Costa also, and I understand what Cristiano says, that in Rui Costa's heyday, he was nowhere to be found in Stade de Luz. But the guy, the class and the talent is there. João Vieira Pinto. I mean, you
Vieira Pinto wasn't extremely talented.
He was.
You don't think so?
No, João Vieira Pinto wasn't. The jukes was
left,
going around guys.
Left foot, right foot.
Oh man, that's maluco.
Finishing.
João Vieira Pinto.
Explosiveness. First touch.
The Zinga.
João Vieira Pinto. Okay, when Portugal won the under-21 World Cup in Riyadh,
he won back-to-back. He was the only player that won it back-to-back.
The youngest player in that first team. And then he won it back-to-back. I mean, I think that he doesn't get the recognition.
He left Atletico Madrid at 17. He struggled because he could only play 2 internationals. Yada yada. Comes back to Portugal. Yes, the guy was a tremendous player.
He doesn't get the recognition.
As talent, though,
because he didn't have the teams around him. He's talented, bro. He is talented. I'm telling you, you gotta go watch some film, bro.
For this. Come on, Fred. I gotta go watch João Vieira Pinto.
Taj Maluk, man. I think you forget about him. I mean, would you put Simão ahead of João Vieira Pinto?
Dude, you're already thinking too long. You're already thinking way too long, Chris.
No, because to me it's a loaded
impact.
Question. No, it's a loaded question because to me there's been a bunch of guys that have passed through Benfica for 1 year and bounced and wound up being good players elsewhere, tremendous players. But to me, I care more about the impact you had on Benfica. João Pinto had a tremendous impact. He was there for 8 years, 9 years, whatever. Fine. I love Rui Costa. I can't sit there like the dude played 1 year where he came off the bench, started a couple games, then he left, then he comes in. He's nowhere near the player he once was, and stuff like that. I want to give guys credit. The Jonas is probably numbers-wise the best player we've seen at Benfica in our time. At Benfica, play at Benfica, not play at AC Milan, not play at Fiorentina, not play at God knows where. At Benfica, Aymar. No, Jonas is the best player we've seen play at Benfica in the last 20 years. At Benfica.
Okay, fair enough.
I don't care. I love Rui Costa.
Dave, what do you think?
You go in my closet, I got jerseys from everything. That was my idol. He didn't do crap at Benfica. That year that they were champions, João Vieira Pinto was the catalyst. That year, 93, 94, before he left the Fiorentina. Rui Costa was a good player. Didn't start in that game. Didn't play in that game. In the crunch game at Alvalade, he didn't start. João Vieira Pinto carried that team. Right? You had Paulo Futuro came in. I think that was that the year after? That was the year after. That was the year after.
I think you're getting the years confused.
Yeah, that was the year after. That was the year after. But still, Rui Costa, tremendous. But at Benfica, what he's been doing, and again, you guys said something before that I agree 1,000%. When João Vieira Pinto was playing, it was a bunch of monkeys everywhere. That's 100% correct, right? Jonas is not playing with a bunch of monkeys. There are monkeys on the field, but he's not playing with a bunch of monkeys. Jonas is the most productive, the best player we've seen at Benfica. Simão had tremendous years, never to this level. The guy's got 30 goals in 25 games. Twice in 3 years, he scored 30 goals.
Yeah, but I know that a guy like Jonas is obviously graded on his goal output.
But everything else he does too.
Yeah,
that's what I was waiting for.
For me, there's
what can he do?
Yeah, for me, there's two guys
There's those two guys.
There's
Yeah.
João Vieira Pinto and Jonas to me.
And I honestly I have a hard time. I have a hard time deciding between those two guys. Between just pure numbers, it's got to be Jonas, especially given.
Chris, put out a Twitter poll.
Given the let's do a Twitter poll. It's always hard to it's hard to compare a player from Generation X versus Generation Y or whatever, because the circumstances that they'll be measured under are always different. The game, even from the 90s till now, has changed a lot. Even in Portugal, the players that João Vieira Pinto played versus the players that Jonas plays with are like night and day. So it's hard. But if there was like a skills competition, and
Jonas would win.
Dude, I don't know, man.
Skills competition, Jonas will win.
That's where I honestly, that's why if it's just based on talent only, I have a very hard time choosing, because I don't know.
No, you chose Saviola one day, so I mean, I think I don't think your vote counts.
Right, let's wrap this up. I think Chris is going to put out a Twitter poll via our Twitter for that, so you could go ahead and vote. How many choices can we put on Twitter on those polls?
I think four.
Four. So
Look,
what are the choices?
Di Maria was tremendous.
Oh, that's
Di Maria. Dude, do you watch Di Maria today? Jesus.
Okay, pa. That's a brincar.
Benfica?
Freddy Adu is better than Di Maria.
I'm not a Di Maria fan. Sorry.
Dave, let's get your opinion, and then Cristiano's going to think of 4 names to put on there. Dave, who do you think for you?
João Vieira Pinto was my childhood hero growing up, but I think Jonas is above João Vieira Pinto.
There you go. So Cristiano, who are the 4 choices? João Vieira Pinto, Jonas, Aymar.
I love Aymar. He was class, but a lot of games disappeared. We're talking about 2 guys that performed.
Yeah.
So just put the 2.
Where were the 2 other guys? No, or you think it's between those 2 guys?
And I might look. Nuno Gomes could be up there because he scored 15 to 20 goals a year.
We're talking about raw talent, bro.
But I'm talking about
I don't think we can agree on what we're talking about between raw talent and impact.
But you need impact as well, because there's a bunch of guys that had raw talent, never had an impact. I want guys, but if you look over the last 20 years, Simão has to be up there. He had an impact. Brought championships, whatever. Nuno Gomes has to be up there. He had an impact.
Without a doubt.
Okay, João Vieira Pinto and Jonas.
We're talking about best players, not impact. Most talented. Most talented.
Okay. I don't think there's been a player that's passed through Stade de Luz over the last 20 years as talented as Adel Taarabt. He's garbage.
Chris, here's the thing. You have a skills competition between 3 guys. The skills are you got to stop a ball dead from like 50 yards. I'm stuck at numbers, but let's just say like a 50-yard pass.
Okay.
Stop it dead.
Jonas.
You got to hit the crossbar from outside the 18-yard box with both feet.
Jonas. And
you got to slalom the quickest through a bunch of cones.
What is this shit? Canadian slalom? What the hell is slalom?
Let's just so that you get close control, first touch,
Jonas will control
and
the
technique.
ball. Jonas will control the ball better than all 3 of those guys. First touch, he'll hit the crossbar both feet. I think Vieira Pinto will come second. Aymar's not even in the conversation because his left foot was just there for him to fucking not to fall over. And then I might give just to be generous, right? João Vieira Pinto might be quicker. I might give him that just to be generous.
João Vieira Pinto that quick.
Not saying that Jonas wouldn't do it just as fast, but just to be. I think the control.
So Jonas is your guy.
Jonas
is your guy.
Jonas hands down.
Dude,
that's the point he was trying to prove.
Jonas is your guy.
And
it's based all on talent. And I'm not discounting that, because I have a very hard time choosing between Jonas and João Vieira Pinto.
Love João Vieira Pinto, but I don't think Vieira Pinto was his natural.
Here comes the circle again.
No, I don't think he was his natural. I don't think he was as natural and fluid as this. And Vieira Pinto was a tremendous player, but there was to me, because you guys, we've been through this. When it comes to talent, I spot it like that. And Vieira Pinto was always a tick below having that for me. And I loved him. But he was always just right there.
All right. Let's wrap this up. Thank you very much.
Yeah, stop with these questions next time. All right, guys?
Yeah, these are questions that can have us going forever. Thank you for that, Kevin and Francisco Marcelin. It's definitely something Steve and I have spoken about in the past couple days. So
look, one thing's for sure.
Something in a lot of people's minds.
João Vieira Pinto can play on the Brazilian national team. That's for sure.
Yeah, I think that at this point, I think we've run out of superlatives. Is that the way you say it?
Yeah,
superlatives for Jonas, right? Of how to compliment Jonas.
Isso é como como é que chama
Suppositórios.
That's what you're talking about.
Superlatives. Superlatives. I think that we've run out of things to describe Jonas's quality. I think at this point. So at this point, I mean, the question begs, right? Is this the best player you've ever seen play with the Benfica jersey? So, and I'm not talking about the 60s because obviously we never seen those things live, obviously. But I think for me, got to be up there, dude. Anyway,
it's between Shalana, it's between him, Ricosta, I guess. But again, Ricosta wasn't tremendously productive.
Yeah.
Compared to those guys.
Yeah, thank you very much for checking us out. Don't forget to check out our friends over at planetbenfica.co.uk. Our friend here at 10CO10 is where you can find Cristiano on Twitter. Steve Santos can be found at Steve Santos 6, and Dave doesn't have Twitter. At Benfica Podcast is where you can find the Twitter feed for the podcast, benficapodcast.com. We're also available on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, Google Play Music, all those platforms that you wish to listen to us through. On Facebook also. So thank you very much. Next week we'll be back. We'll recap the Aves game and we look ahead to Benfica's next game, which is Feirense, if I'm not mistaken, at Feirense. So thank you very much. Look out for that poll on Twitter. Cristiano is going to be putting that up soon.
No pressure.
So thanks a lot. Oh, shit, I forgot to. I didn't mention that I was going to talk about Paulo Gonçalves. So I'll go into that real quick. So news did come out today, and Paulo Gonçalves, who is Benfica's legal director. So basically, he's the lawyer in charge of Benfica's legal department, so on and so forth. He was arrested today with accusations that he had bribed some people inside the judicial ministry about to get tipped off on the investigation on the case of the email. So he was one of the names mentioned on the emails when the emails come out. He was one of the guys that was trading emails back and forth. So he was arrested today, and I think he's spent the night at Polícia Judiciária. So my whole take on it, right? And as far as I'm embarrassed, right? As a Benfiquista, I'm embarrassed that that Benfica is tied up to this whole thing, and that this guy works for Benfica, and this happened. Obviously, I think that whatever allegedly what he did, I think has nothing to do with influencing what goes on the field. It's not like he just paid Estoril before their second half. So the guy, obviously his name is involved in this investigation. He obviously wanted to get ahead of the investigation. He wanted to get some inside track. So he got to some guys that had the privilege and were privy to the information that was being investigated by the Ministério. So he was apparently he was bribing them with Benfica jerseys and
tickets to games,
and tickets to games, which is pretty cheap.
And I have one very simple question, right, regarding this situation, which is why in the hell is this guy even hired by Benfica?
Right.
This is a guy that was at Futebol Clube do Porto when they were champions. Corruption followed. Moves over to Boa Vista, champions. Corruption followed. They were even relegated. After that wasn't enough of a warning sign for Benfica to stay away from this guy. I mean, what the hell is Benfica doing? This guy should never even been nowhere near Estádio da Luz.
He's a portista.
I don't care what he is. Just the fact that he's been involved in two other cases that smell dirty. One case, Porto loses 6 points. The other team gets relegated. What the hell is this guy doing being employed by Benfica?
Completely agree. And look,
totally unacceptable. It's freaking embarrassing.
And look, the thing is that, and the thing that needs to be right now investigated is whether he was doing this for himself or he was doing this because as a right hand man to Vieira, he was being ordered by Vieira to check this out, because as I mentioned, his name was involved in a lot of these emails that were divulged by Francisco Marques. So obviously you wanted to get ahead and wanted to get an inside track on what was being investigated. I mean, I can't blame the guy. He just went about it the wrong way. So anyway, as a Benfiquista, I'm embarrassed that he's connected to Benfica and that Benfica's name, it's not Paulo Gonçalves that comes up. It's Benfica's name. I mean, you read the international media and all you see is Benfica Stadium being raided, Benfica Stadium being searched by police. That's all you see. So as a Benfiquista, I'm embarrassed. I think that the first thing that Benfica needs to do is, obviously, as a Benfiquista, I want the investigation to go through, and I want to find out everything that there is to know about this. I want to find that out as a Benfiquista, because whatever the consequences are of this involvement need to be brought to light. And I think that as Benfiquistas, we deserve to know what's going on and the people that are associated with our club, what they're involved in, right? So I'm embarrassed that he's tied with Benfica, and I think that Benfica has come out officially and said that they support him. And I think at this point, perhaps that's not the right thing to do. Obviously, if Benfica feels that he didn't do it, there's no wrongdoings, they're getting behind him. But I think that the moment that Benfica starts feeling that there's no turning back, that's it, this guy is in it, I think the first thing that you got to do is you got to sever ties with this guy.
This shouldn't have come to this.
It shouldn't have.
As soon as a name comes out in these emails, I'm sick. Look, man, and I love Benfica, and I know some people aren't going to appreciate what I'm about to say, but I'm sick and tired of Benfica being accused of things. Oh, it's not us. It's not. I know we're all squeaky clean. Everybody's beautifully clean, but yet the police is picking guys up and locking them up. But everybody's clean. Everybody's beautiful. Let go of all these clowns. You're associated with any of this crap. You cut your ties. You bite the bullet. It is what it is. Let go of everybody. Stop backing up and supporting these imbeciles that are constantly putting this team, unless they order from someone else, but constantly putting this team in harm's way and making a bad name for this club worldwide.
Yeah.
Shouldn't come to this.
Look, there's two types of guys. There's guys that serve the club, and there's guys that the club serves them. So, and I think that the first one is the guy that you want, not that you don't take advantage of the club to better yourself. You want to service the club. Anyway, that's all I got. Thank you very much, and sorry about this. I did promise that I was going to say something, so I apologize if we went too long on this one. Steve, always good to see you, man. I'm glad that internet thing worked out. Looks nice. Apparently you cranked it good. Well, and
he's got his little boy outside cranking it up.
Dave, always good seeing you, man. Thanks for the stats. Cristiano, see you next week.
Peace.
Later.